Hello, my friend. Welcome. I hope you're having an excellent day. And welcome to the Back to Me podcast. This is Heather, and I'm pretty excited. This week, I am talking with Kim Basler, who is a coach and a pretty cool person to talk to. And we are talking about healthy eating, but not in the way that you think. We're going to talk about what health looks like and what is healthy and how that's evolving in the world, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. So, after you listen, share it with your friends. And of course, send me some comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Take care, my friend. Have a super day. Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. I know you're excited to get started on this episode, but before I jump in, I just wanted to let you know, in case you hadn't heard, there is a webinar coming up on February the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's totally free, and it is called The 6 Keys to Unlocking Your Best Life. I hope you can join me. I'm going to include how to get there in the show notes. I would love to see you, and why not? Why not try something different to create your best life? Take care, my friend. Here comes the episode. See you soon. Hello, my friend. I hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Heather. This is the Back to Me podcast. This is my favorite day of the week because it's Friday, and that means that I'm going to talk to an awesome human being. And this week's awesome human being is Kim Basler. And I'm laughing because thought I was going to screw up the pronunciation. Kim is an online food freedom and mindset coach. And by the way, she was okay. Tell me what the award was, because I can't remember, but I was super impressed.
Yeah, this is with canfitpro, so Canadian Fitness Professionals. It's Canada's largest fitness and education platform, and I actually received a couple of awards. I got New Presenter of the Year in 2020. Yeah,
2020.
A New Presenter of the Year, where I was on a body image and mental wellness panel where I shared my story. So I got new Presenter of the Year, and then in 2022, I just received the Sharon Mann Inspiration Award. And Sharon Mann is no longer with us, but she represented courage, leadership, community. She was an incredible human being, and I was the first recipient of the award in honor and legacy of her.
So. Congratulations. Hold on. Wait.
I love it.
I'm going to do that. So I'm pretty excited. That's so amazing. Like, congratulations. I mean, I've been going to CanFit conferences for a long time. Can't remember when the first one was. And it's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of people there, and everybody there is working really hard to try and help everybody be super healthy, right? It's like, we love being fit and healthy, and we want everyone to love it as much as we do.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I've been going to canfitpro since its inception in 1993.
Wow.
And and for me to now be trailblazing with my message and what I am promoting and supporting women with, to be recognized for that, to share my story of my own struggles, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, to be recognized for that. And I did so in a way that was it was vulnerable. It was sharing of my story, and I was being authentically me, and to be recognized for that, it meant so much to me. So
that's amazing.
It just shows that the industry is listening. Canada is doing amazing things for representing body inclusivity, health at every size. Like, we're moving in this direction of recognizing that we need to change how we view health, because we want more people to feel well in their bodies. So right. I am super proud of Canada for doing that. Really, really proud of them.
That is awesome. And it is true. I mean, I have this conversation quite often is the fitness industry in the past, if you didn't, a lot of people didn't feel like they belonged in it, right? And that's so disheartening knowing that you can benefit. So everyone can benefit from something in the fitness industry. Is finding the right space for it. So I'm always curious in the beginning. How did you get into this thing, this world of fitness? What brought you here?
Well, I mean, are we talking about my initial entry into the fitness industry or what I'm doing? However, I want to take it.
However you want to take it, it's all up to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Heather. Well, I can tell you that I actually became a fitness instructor at 16 years old. I
Wow.
had joined a gym at 14 years old. I joined the gym because part of my story, a large part of my story is that I started dieting at 12. So at a very young age, so at a very, very young age, I took on the belief that there was something wrong with my body, that I needed to keep my body a certain way. I started the dieting at 12, joined a gym when I was 14. Someone suggested, why don't you become a fitness instructor? So I did that at the age of 16. And that took me right into that. I went to university, of course, but I stayed in the fitness industry. I've played all the roles in the fitness industry. But what got me to what I'm doing now is part of my journey, right? And I think to myself, how can I answer this question for you? How did I get into the work? I work as a food freedom and mindset coach. And what does that mean? Is I'm supporting women with their relationships with food, women who feel like they've always been jumping from one diet to the next, hoping that that next diet will be the diet that quote unquote fixes them. And helping them feel better in their bodies, accept their bodies for the amazingness that they are, recognizing that we're all different, and really building up the self-worth. Because as much as I worked in the fitness industry this whole time, what I also was secretly struggling with was my own body challenges, the disordered eating, I weighed myself every day from the age of 12 years old until I was 41.
Holy moly.
Every day. And I think back, and I know, like, I say it now because I don't mind. I like to talk about my age. I'm 6 years into this journey, and I say that now, and it just feels so distanced from where I was. But that was my reality. Was I was in the thick of trying to control my body, and the scale was a ritual every morning in my life. And there was obviously times in my life where I was even struggling with an eating disorder in high school. So you can imagine the stress and that I carried. I was also a mother, and I had a career, and how many of us as women are trying to do all the things and wear all the hats, and we feel like we're failing at it miserably because we just take on way too much.
Well, and we create this vision of what it should be,
Yep.
right? We create, and I mean, yes, a lot of it does come from media
Yeah.
and even social media. It's like this is how I'm supposed to be. And if I don't measure against that, I've got to do something. I got to work harder. I have to do more. I have to fill in the blank.
We've been taught, right? Like, we've been taught that having that ideal body, which we know changes constantly,
Oh my
like the
God.
messaging changes constantly. So we've been taught that if I'm it's the answer to all my problems, right? Like, if I can, as I said that to a therapist, when I was at the beginning of this healing journey, I said, like, if I just didn't have these body struggles, if I could just manage my weight, I know that I would be okay. I was attaching all of my challenges to my body because in the thick of it, that's what I had believed. And I got sick, essentially, Heather, is what happened. I was carrying the stress. I was burning myself out, and just trying to do it all. And I started to experience a host of issues. It started with sleep for me, where I couldn't sleep properly, and I was waking up, every 90 minutes, essentially. Body hives followed from that.
Ooh.
All of that internal, and I'm reading a lot right now about how the body, manifests illness and what shows up. And that's what was happening. It was all coming from inside of me, all these years of the pressures, and then it went into my social life. It went into my marriage with my husband, which I'm beautifully married to him now, but we come from such a healthier place now, right? Because I'm healthier now in mind and body and spirit. So I had to begin that journey. And I would like to say to everyone that's listening that I consciously made a decision to leave my career, which is what I did in 2016, but it wasn't a conscious decision. I really believe, and I say this openly, that it was a spiritual message. I believe in God, but it was that message of saying, like, you need help and you can get out of this. And I had to get out of it because it was going down a very dangerous path. My mind was taking me to a very dangerous direction, and I needed help.
Right.
So I left my career, which I thought I was going to go back to, right? I was working in management at the time with a large fitness chain here in Canada. And I thought I was going to come back to it. I thought I just needed a leave of absence. But I realized very quickly that it was that industry and that environment that was only feeding all of the things that were part of my illness. And I needed to get help. I needed to find out what was the next path for me. And so I never actually went back. And hence I found myself working on healing my relationship with my body, relationship with food. I found a beautiful institute that I trained out of, Institute for the Psychology of Eating in Boulder, Colorado. And I began my journey with the intention that I was going to help other women with it, but I had no idea what that was going to look like. I just knew that I wasn't the only one.
Right. And we don't know in the beginning. I mean, I feel like when you're called to do something, you follow that in whatever form that calling comes in, and you don't have to have the answer. Like,
No.
we feel like we have to know the answer before we do something all the time. I'm so guilty of it. I'm like, I need to know the answers, but I'm still working on learning to trust this is the right direction. Follow it. And it's so interesting you talking about relationships with food. So I went and saw a live interview with Nigella Lawson.
Okay.
And do you know who Nigella is? Oh my gosh.
I'm going to have to look them up now.
So Nigella is
Nigella. Okay.
Yes, she is not a chef, and
Okay.
she will tell you she's not a chef. She is very fascinating. She has a cooking show out of the UK. She lives in London, England. She has this passionate relationship with food, and like, people often accuse her of being too sensual with her cooking shows. She's like, I just really like food. You're the one who's putting it into this sexiness. But they asked her a question about food, and she says, none of it is bad. You've got to, and she's basically trying to give that same message. It's like, stop putting a label on how you should be with food. And that's a, if you were started at the age of 12, that's a long time to have that way of thinking and try and shift it.
Yeah. Hence, I'm still shifting it every day.
I don't think we ever stop when we're trying to change.
No. And, but that's the piece around it, is the compassion for myself. And I'm grateful for the work that I get to do every day, because it's just helping me on my healing journey on a regular basis for me. But yeah, I mean, it's part of living in this culture.
Yeah. And it's interesting, even the messages you get. So how we measure our goals, our achievements, are we doing the things we want to do? And we do use the scale a lot. And even the places you don't expect to, I can't say they were even judging me. I felt like I was judging me, and I was putting it on them. I was at the doctor's office, and when you get your physical, they weigh you. And I saw the scale. I'm like, I'm lighter in the morning, was the first thing I said.
Isn't it crazy?
And then they showed me my BMI. I said, that doesn't measure muscle tone, right? So
why are they still using it, Heather? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Because it's cool.
I looked at the number. I'm like, I know what that number means, having been in the fitness industry. And I'm like, that's so inaccurate.
And then we want to sit them down, right? We want to keep them.
I get this face on, like, let me tell you about this. But then I just realized, I'm like, okay, this is just me
Mm.
trying to defend my body when my body is actually fine. I'm healthy, and and I'm fit.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's like, why do I still need to do that? But I still fall into it.
Yeah. Well, it's all of our beliefs. It's conditions, right? It's conditioning that we've all been part of mostly, I mean, and specifically for women, right? Like we just know it's just, and it's the way we measure. If you think, I like to talk about things from a masculine feminine approach, right? We need everything in the industry. If we want to measure things, it's very number focused, right? That's why I'm always talking about how do you feel? Like, cause you can have the lowest amount of body fat. You can be quote unquote in the BMI scale where you're supposed to be, but are you happy? Are you well? Like, these things matter. That's why I believe in this holistic approach to health. But yeah, I mean, I think that's another reason why women want to use the scale, because it's a way for us to quantify that the things that we're doing are working, right?
Right? Yeah. How do you measure if you don't have something to measure? Right.
Well, it's because we've been taught to be external. We've been taught to be outside of ourselves. Inside of ourselves, we can, our bodies teach us all the time. We've lost that wisdom with them though, which is why,
Oh,
we need to learn how to cultivate that wisdom again, that intuition that our body's here to speak to us.
right. And it's true that, and if you haven't listened, I mean, I see it as a massage therapist, I see it from teaching yoga, and um, they often people are so disconnected. This is a funny story. I was
Mhm,
teaching yoga and I was teaching one-on-one with this woman, and she was in a plank, and I said, "Bend your elbows." And she looked at me like I was crazy
mhm,
because I'm like, because she couldn't translate
mhm.
bend your elbows to, she's looking at her arm and she just couldn't figure out how to bend her elbows.
Yeah.
So I had to say, well, just lower down onto your stomach. She could figure that out, but she couldn't figure out where her elbows were. And I
Mhm,
just realized some people are so caught up in that cerebral
mhm,
part that they've forgotten they have bodies. And I
mhm,
explain to my massage therapy clients quite often because they're like, well, why is it hurting? I said, that's the only way your body knows how to talk to you if you're not listening. It has to create pain
mhm.
and that's your body shouting, by the way.
Yeah.
It'll tell you in subtle ways. When you stop listening, it will tell you by causing pain.
I always say it's like they start out as whispers, right? I look back on my journey and everything started out as whispers. There was plenty of signs. A, I wasn't willing to hear them. And B, my life wasn't created in a way for me to feel them because I was always going, right? Our
Right.
body, so the body gets louder, right? The body will eventually scream at us or make us sit down, find a way to make us sit down.
Yep. I had a stroke.
Wow. So there you
Right.
go, right?
Yeah. October is the 29th. I was in a downtown Toronto hospital over Halloween. Let
Okay.
me tell you, that's an education in itself.
Mm,
But also because I was healthy, I have recovered.
mm,
Like,
yes.
no one would know that it happened if I didn't tell people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you only get one body,
Mhm.
right? And you need to take care of the place you live in.
Mhm.
People take better care of their cars, which
Yes.
I find fascinating. But
Mhm. Mhm.
so when you're helping people, I mean, it's a process. Like, how do you find to help them?
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You know what I'm getting at here.
Exactly what you mean. Well, and and I think it's important for us to recognize that everyone's journey with food will look different. For some person, it's just that they didn't grow up with an understanding of nutrition, and so they want to support themselves in a way that is not about food rules. I've had clients come to me for that. I just want to eat healthier, but I just don't want to be told I can't eat anything, right? Like,
Right.
so freedom, a little bit more freedom. I think at the main people that I tend to attract are women that there's an excessive amount of emotional eating. I say excessive because it's normal for us to emotionally eat. We can't pull our emotions out of our body when we eat. So emotions will always be with us. But I'm talking about that person who knows that they're really comforting themselves in food. There's some numbing happening. There's some suppressing of feelings from a place, and a lot of this, and even binge eating comes from that place too, like where there has been some type of past trauma, there has been something that has happened, and that person has found support through food. And so in the world of diet culture, they're shamed for it. They're told that there's something wrong with them, and they're told they need to stop eating those foods. Well, that doesn't work for a person who has found a way to support their nervous system with the comfort of food. So I have a really healing relationship with that. We talk, we heal, we talk about our emotions, we talk about how to calm our nervous system. But then the other thing, Heather, is there's a person who has gone the other way. They've swung so far to that food is, everything has to be healthy, healthy, healthy. And now I feel guilty and I can't eat like a quote unquote normal person because everything has been deemed bad and wrong. And I help with that too.
And you can't have fun in life if you're stressing about what you eat every minute of the day.
And is it, I always say that, like when your approach to being healthy, when the foods that you're eating were for your health, but it's no longer healthy because it's affecting your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual well-being, we know that we need support with that.
Right.
Even people that, like, again, it's all part of my story, you know, over exercising, using exercise as a way to punish the body, using exercise as a way of not dealing with what's happening inside of us. So again, it's been found as a coping tool. We don't do it consciously, but it happens. We take on these behaviors to support ourselves. And my goal with everyone is healing, is for us to move more towards a place of feeling better in our bodies, feeling better in our lives. I most recently brought in a lot of mindset tools. So, because self-worth was a big part of my story.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So subconscious work, hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, tapping for the nervous system.
Tapping is so good.
So good, right? So my goal always is to give people tools for us, first of all, to understand where did this come from? So that's the psychology around the work that I do. Is there thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that have led us to where we are now? So we don't come at it from a place of shame, but we understand. And then we work on building tools and more awareness and changing our belief systems so that we get to identify with moving towards a level of health that feels right for us, because their health does not have a look. We know this. Heather, I'm talking to the choir here.
I know.
Right?
We know, but
the listeners, right? Like health, we've been taught that health is found in smaller bodies. Well, you can be in a smaller body and not be healthy.
Oh my gosh, so true.
And I am in a larger body now and significantly healthier from a holistic standpoint. So this to me is longevity. This to me is sustainable. This is enjoyable. I'm not here to define anybody's level of health. They get to define that for themselves, but I get to support them with it.
And it's a process, right? It's if you like, you have to unpack all of the stories, and it is true. I mean, things that happen to you. I have one woman that I know who's someone and she's in her 30s, late 30s. Someone early in high school made some comment to her, and she's carried that around. And I'm her personal trainer, and she keeps wanting to do this particular type of exercise. I'm like, but why? You don't need this. Because, and she told me, I said, that person probably just heard it on a TV show and said it to you, and it had nothing to do with you. But she internalized it and carried it around. So the traumas don't even have to be big, massive. It's just like something felt like an attack. I mean, I'll tell you mine. At one point, I was wearing Jordache jeans. Do you remember Jordache jeans?
I do.
And my brother called me a lardass. By the way, if you're listening, Sean, I still remember. And so I walk around all this time thinking that I have a huge butt. Now, I do have a good booty, but let me tell you, it's not a bad booty. It's a great booty, right? So
I have so many of those memories too. Songs that were sung to me by my older brother, names, you know, we hold on to them. But as you said, these are stories, these are beliefs that we took on, and that's the power of the mind, right? That's the power of the mind, is we can change the way the mind thinks. We just have to know that, and I'll a little bit of numbers here. Let's talk numbers,
Let's talk numbers.
right? Like 95% of the way you think, feel, and act and behave comes from your subconscious mind.
So true.
So we have to, if we just let that subconscious mind continue to run, because it will, because it's here to protect us, it's doing what it feels it needs to do. But we have the ability at any stage of our life to be able to start that work. But as you've said a couple times now, it is a process, it is a journey, it needs repetition. And our environment matters too. Like if I'm sitting here going, I want to work on healing my relationship with my body, and I want to be able to learn how to accept this body and respect her. Well, if I'm sitting here looking at videos that are constantly telling me I need to lose 20 pounds in the next 90 days, well, it's conflicting, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the ownership piece of it. And I mean, honestly, it's about being honest with yourself. For some people, if they want to use a scale on a regular basis and that works for them, go for it. But I'm here for the people that are struggling and suffering the way I was, because I want them to know that they don't need to live that way anymore.
Right. And you just reminded me, because you were talking about, I can't even remember why it popped into my head. The people will set themselves these goals, and the all or nothing goals. And because New Year's, what's the biggest weight loss? What's the busiest time at the gym? January 2nd. And as if for people who go to the gym regularly, they know that by the middle of February, everybody's gone.
Yep.
And there is some stat, like I think that's what reminded me, like so much of your behavior, you don't even recognize that you're not making decisions. Your subconscious has already made the decision before you even open your mouth.
Yeah.
So you'll set yourself a big giant ass goal for New Year's, going, this is the year, damn it, this is the year. But your subconscious is like, whatever.
You've done this before.
Yeah, you go ahead with that. And I can't remember the stat, like 80% of people by the middle of February have already failed. But
And that's because we're not setting. And I mean, do I really believe in goals, or do I rather live on intentions, like setting intentions every day? I think you have to know yourself. Some people work really well with strong goals, but the fact is you have to be realistic and say, is this something that is doable? So this is middle of February now, right? So
yeah.
think back to those goals that you set out in January. And I always say, first of all, you don't have to wait until January to set any type of goal, and you can always go back and change them and relook at them. But that's why I'm not a big fan of body goals, weight loss goals, because then if you're doing these beautiful intentions and you're moving your body in ways that are fun and enjoyable and supportive, and they're helping you, but you're not seeing the drop on the weight that you think you should be getting based on the effort you're putting in, you quit because of that mindset. So I'm all about, other types of goals that we can work towards, that ultimately I just want people to feel better in their bodies. And if the body is meant to release weight, it will, but we don't have control over all those details unless we're going to live by restriction and really strict rules. And I'm all about, let's have longevity. I want people living with more longevity and health and wellness, and not feeling this on and off business all the time.
And I mean, you've probably read the obesity code. Have you read that book?
I've read some of it. I haven't read the book. Yeah.
And I mean, it is lots of numbers and lots of research, but I like his approach, because he said, I looked at it all. It works, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like there is no one answer. There is no one perfect thing. But he also talks about how, because of our habits of like that, up and down, we sabotage ourselves.
And it's
on the
damaging
long
to
term.
our metabolism. Like that's damaging. Dieting is damaging to the metabolism.
Right.
It's not helping us.
Your body's trying really hard to protect you, and you keep freaking it out. Is what you do.
There's something called the set point, right? So your natural weight that your body wants to sit at comfortably. I mean, I don't talk numbers anymore, but I know all my weights. Like I know my numbers like somebody else knows their revenue. Okay.
Right.
But like I manipulated those numbers because I would get hungrier and hungrier to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And our bodies are very smart. Our bodies will not starve themselves. They will eventually get what they need. I mean, that's another part of my story, Heather, is I used to eat in my sleep during my eating disorder days.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's another conversation. So
That's crazy.
yeah, but again, it's survival, right? That's the body's job, is survival. So we can't outsmart our bodies. We all have a natural weight that our bodies will comfortably sit at for their wellness. Like if the body wants to keep putting those 5 pounds on, maybe it's because the body wants those 5 pounds for its best energy and nourishment.
Right.
Right? But the more we manipulate it, the more we starve ourselves and punish our bodies and yo-yo diet, the body goes, I can't trust her anymore. I better hold on to this weight because until she's going to do this again to me. Our bodies are smart. We can't outsmart them.
And even what's true today, as you go through the phases of life, now that I'm down that road, and I talk about menopause all the time. I don't care if people know.
Of course.
I'm going to do a whole show on menopause because people need to know what happens. It's more than you think.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, everything changes again. It's like, hell, I already went through puberty. What the hell now? What are you guys doing to me? But it's doing its thing.
Yeah.
It's just nobody ever told you it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And that it's a natural part of life, right? And that is the gift of getting older. And no, we don't want all the symptoms that come with menopause, but you know what? Like we're also living longer than some people else got the opportunity to do. So,
well, and then it's like circling back to the beginning again. That's because who do they show in all movies, everything? Like even I remember when the James Bond came out that had one of the James Bond women was older. And she wasn't even old. Like, come on. She was older. And like they killed her. Like you guys, seriously? Come on.
Well, and that makes me think of something that I just saw this week, featured on one of our local, like out of Toronto shows, is the women that are on the covers. Yeah, they're in their 50s, but they're not representing the quote unquote average woman, right? It's so again, we're still being told that even at 50 and 55 and 60 that we're supposed to be chiseled and that we're supposed to be using Botox and all of these things. And I'm not shaming these things. It's your body, you do what you want. However, it's that constant expectation that who we are and the wrinkles that we have, that there's something wrong with that.
And some people were born chiseled. Like I know people in my life who are just born that way.
Yeah.
Like, and they just breathing and they suddenly chisel up. And that's their body. Like
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, and that's exactly it, Heather, because then on the other side of it is some people are just naturally in larger bodies. Okay. So it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that body. We all have different bodies.
And we got to love them all.
Yes.
Right.
Can you imagine if we just did that?
My mind is blowing. I'm thinking of John Lennon and the Imagine song.
Yeah. Yes.
So for people who are sitting back and going, maybe I am, maybe they're just like starting that questioning of like that self-reflection of, am I doing that to myself? What do you think is a good entry point for them?
Well, I often think we have to just start by looking at how we behave with food. There's many things because it depends on the individual, but for the person who has a lot of fear around food, if you think about food nonstop, that is a really great indicator that you are restricting on some level. Because when you're not, food is food and we just let it come in and out and it's no big deal. But if there is a lot of food thoughts, worries about food, checking your body, all of that, that's where I'm really going to encourage people to look at, that relationship with it. Can we be able to start to look at the way we talk about food? We already said there's no bad food. So even that language, which seems like no big deal to people, or people will say, but there is bad food. Well, but is there? Or is it just that some food has more nutritional value than others? And that it's what we've been taught about that food that then when we consume it, it causes us to feel the shame and everything with it.
Right.
Right. So even like looking at your language around it, looking at your behaviors, are you using a scale, and does that scale actually impact you in a negative way? Does it make you feel a certain way about yourself when you stand on it? Does it cause you to change the way you behave with food or the way you move your body because of what that scale says? Does it cause you to feel less connected to your partner? Does it make you feel like less intimate in the bedroom? Like, these are the things I'm talking about here.
Right.
Okay. Because it's not meant to be that way. So checking it from that angle, but then I will look at, let's just talk briefly about the person who has found coping through food. Okay. So they are distressing with food. They are suppressing emotion with food. Again, that's where I'm going to meet this person with a lot of self-compassion and just say it's normal and it's understandable, but that there is help. So if you feel you need help, to not feel shame around that, because it's no different than, well, it is different in a way, because if somebody finds support through a street drug versus somebody who has, like, we know that hamburgers are available and fast food is available. It's
24/7.
24/7. So, like, the fact that you might have found comfort in food at a time in your life and you learned that, I understand right now it might not be supporting you, and know that you can get some help with it, but it's the shame around it that we have to really start to release from it. So I think, to me, it's about being honest with yourself and paying attention to how you're talking to yourself, because I am a parent and I can tell you that, and I don't shame myself for this, but I can tell you, like, my 19-year-old daughter is being parented very differently now, and she is watching me in a very different way than she would have seen me when she was a little girl.
Right.
Okay, so we have to understand that there's an if when we can become a parent, we have to understand that we are modeling our children in some way. That's how I started this, and this is no shame towards my mother, but this is how it started for me. So pay attention to your behaviors, pay attention to how you speak about yourself, how you speak out loud, how you judge other people's bodies, whatever, and start to recognize that this is areas that you can get help with, right?
Right.
We don't
Your
need to go this way.
your inner dialogue, if when you tune into it, if you only tune into it, if you've never tuned into it before and you start listening to it, don't freak out.
No, don't freak out, because our minds can speak so quickly at us, like, very, very fast.
Yeah.
And just
And
go ahead.
just know that you can change the story, right?
Yeah, yeah, you absolutely can. And it's not about changing it overnight, and it takes work and repetition, like
Right.
anything does. But I know it's about changing it for yourself, and knowing that you can always.
Right.
Yeah, because there's just a lot of beliefs that we're all operating under, and just because something works for somebody else doesn't mean that it should work for you, or that you must follow that. This leads me to this really important statement, is that any of the diets that you've tried before that didn't work, or you gained back the weight, it's not your fault at all. That's the part of the industry that is part of, that's like, people say, well, it worked before. Well, if it worked before, you wouldn't be going back to that program for the ninth time, right?
I always say the diet industry, if it was successful, would put itself out of business,
Yes, it would.
right?
It's not meant
So
to be successful,
the
right?
fact that it's so huge
Mhm.
just tells you how well it works long term.
Yeah, and that you can find a relationship with food that works for you. People are very afraid of getting bigger, and I understand that in this world that we live in. I understand that. I'm here to say that it's not like it's always going to happen. It could happen, but it's, again, what story do we tell ourselves about that?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And to me, I'm a living proof that I'm in a larger body, and I could not be happier with where I am in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If people think I need to talk to Kim more, how do they find you?
Yeah, please do. Well, first of all, I'll say I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook. So my Instagram handle is _food freedom. And I do a lot of work in there. Yes, a little food freedom. And also very active on Facebook. My website is kimbasler.com. So those are all spaces I offer discovery calls, which essentially is an opportunity for us to jump into a call to see with what you might be struggling with, where you think you might need some help, and we can see if we're a good fit, because that's important for me and for you, that we're a good fit. And if we're not a good fit, then maybe I can suggest somebody that is. But
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to all go into the show notes as well. So if people are like, what did she say? Check the show notes. It's in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kim, for sharing all of this. But before you go, do you have, there's been so much already that you've already done, but do you have final word of wisdom?
Final words of wisdom is that you can try again, that you can take a different path, like whatever that is for you. We create so many stories about ourselves. And I'm just asking you to know that you are, if you've never seen this quote, you are the author of your life. You get to change the script. You get to turn the page, and it's never too late to do that. And, if you think of all the stories that are out there, there is not one that is better than the other. So find what works for you, and know that you can bring other people into your story to help you along.
That's outstanding. I was like, what more wisdom can she give us? And then she
Did I
has
wow you?
just another mic drop moment. Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. Thank you so much for everything you do, by the way, because I think it's such an important thing in the world right now. And so many people over the last few years have had so much they've been trying to cope with. And yes, you don't have to do things alone, right? You can get support that you need.
I would never be where I am, Heather, if I did this alone.
Right, exactly. Me neither. Thank you so much. And thank you, my friends, for hanging out with us and listening and involving yourself in our conversation. If you want more, you know what to do. Reach out to us, send us your love, send us some love, subscribes, shares, all that good stuff. Even send us some comments. We love those too. Take care, my friend. I will see you again soon. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.